Hello friends, welcome back to my channel MU Exam. So friends, till now we have discussed the whole dry docking process, how the ship is taken to the dock, the work carried out during things carried out during dry docking, and how we have taken out ship out of dock. So now we will see one of the major jobs which is done during dry docking, that is surface preparation and hull painting. So let's see the process. So basically, when ship is there underwater, then underwater part of the hull gets fouled and gets corroded. So for that, the hull has to be painted. So if hull is found, then it increases friction resistance, increases fuel consumption. There is a loss of speed, increase in voyage timing, significant rise in vessel operating cost, and environmental pollution. So before the paint is applied, we have to prepare the surface. So surface preparation basically involves uh, cleaning of the surface and drying. So cleaning of surface from oil, grease, dirt, and chemicals. These things prevents addition of coating. Then water soluble materials like sodium chloride, which causes blistering of the paint. Then soluble ferrous salt, which in contact with steel and moisture initiate rusting of the steel. Then loose rust and mill scale. So we have to remove all these things from the surface before paint can be applied. Other important thing is the roughness of the surface should also be taken into consideration before applying paint. So the surface preparation can be done by using uh, three on sorry by using this blasting technique. Blast cleaning process is used for surface cleaning or surface preparation for large areas. So for smaller areas, power tools are used. So surface cleaning can be of this blasting technique can be of abrasive blasting or hydroblasting. So let's see these things one by one. So blasting can be of different types, like sweep blasting, in which only a jet of abrasive is used. So if its effectiveness depends on the nature and the condition of the surface type and the particle size of the abrasive and skill of the operator. Whereas in abrasive and slurry blasting, which is called wet blasting, is using water and abrasive. So over here, the advantage is the hazards of dust and associated health problems are overcome, and this process can also remove salt. The third type is hydroblasting or hydrojetting. So this technique basically cleans the surface which rely entirely on the energy of water free of abrasive striking the surface to achieve the cleaning effect. Over here, the pressure of water can go up to 25,000 psi, and here the size of the nozzle is very important. For non-ferrous metals, the sweep blasting can be used at low pressure. Now let's see the paints. So paints basically consist of three major components: the binder, pigment, and the solvent. So let's see the properties of these components one by one. So binder is a largest component of the paint. It's a compound that's most influence on the characteristic of the paint, like adhesion, hardness, strength, resistance to chemical, etc. Paints are generally named after their binder components, like this epoxy, alkyd, chlorinated rubber. Then, according to the drying and curing process, binders can be classified into two types. One is thermoset and thermoplastic. Thermoset coating, when dried, is chemically different from the paint which is there in the can, whereas thermoplastic coatings, there is no chemical change. This thermoplastic coating are the solutions of resins and polymers dissolved in suitable solvents. Now we'll see what are pigments. So basically, pigments are small particles of solid materials that are distributed in the paints. Their primary function is to give paint color, binding capacity, and to protect the binder against disorientation from the sun's ultraviolet rays. So basically, this increase or improves the binding capacity of the binders. So pigments can be divided into following types, like anti-corrosive pigments that prevents corrosion by chemicals and electrochemicals, barrier pigments which increases the impermeability of the film and protects the binder, then the coloring agent which gives color, and extended pigments also known as extenders. They adjust the pigmentation of the paint until the required pigment volume concentration is achieved. So these are the properties of the pigment. Now the solvent. Third part of the paint is the solvent. Solvent facilitates the application of the paint. Solvent dissolves the binder and consequently reduces the viscosity of the paint to a level which is suitable for various methods of application, like brush, roller, conventional spray, and ALS spray. So basically, this controls these solvents controls the viscosity of the paint to such a level that can be applied by different applications. After application, solvent evaporates and plays no further role in the final paints. So these solvents are of true solvent type, latent solvent type, and dilutant solvent type. The true solvent liquid that dissolves the binder and are completely compatible with it. Whereas latent solvent, they are not true solvents, but when mixed with the true solvent, the mixture has a strong dissolving property than that of the true solvent alone. So these are very much costlier. So to reduce the cost and improve the solubility in compared to true solvents, these true solvents and latent solvents are mixed, and these are called dilutant solvents. So they have property much better as compared to true solvents. Now let's see the type of paints. So paints can be of anti-corrosive type, anti-fouling type, and the primers. So let's see one by one. So anti-corrosive paints should be corrosion inhibitor and compatible with the cathodic protection system and their products, basically ions. The main work of the anti-corrosive coating is to form barrier between the seawater, that is which is there as an electrolyte, and the steel plate of the hull, and retard the penetration of water and oxygen with the application of thick coating with very low permeability. So these paints are bitumen, coal tar, epoxy, etc. As we are aware, one of the prime mover of the corrosion triangle are the ions. So these anti-corrosive coats basically does not contain any ion. So the coatings are necessarily of high build and do not contain any metal or the molecules that will interfere with the cathodization of the hull by cathodic protection system. So basically these paints does not contain any metal or the molecule, so that ions are not produced. Then the second type of paint is the shop primers. These are anti-corrosive and are designed for the application in automated plants prior to assembly or construction. So this is very important. So these are mostly applied in automated process in the shop prior to assembly and construction. They are applied in low film thickness, that is 100 micron, and they do not interfere with the speed of cutting or welding. Examples are epoxy, iron oxide, zinc silicate. Now the third type of paint are the antifoulants. So antifoulants have been the primary method of protecting ship from fouling. They prevent the growth penetration through the coating and extend the corrosion protection of the hull. In the simplest form, antifoulants are comprised of binder, pigment, and solvents like any other paints. The binder type determines the nature of the anti-fouling. Pigment includes the anti-fouling agents or biocides and various fillers, and solvents provides the workable body. The biocide are the chemicals which are released at a very low rate and which inhibits the microbial growth. So good biocide should have the following characteristic, that it should be low mammalian toxicity, low water solubility, low bioaccumulation in the food chain, not resistant in the environment, compatible with the paint raw material, and favorable price as compared to performance. The main properties are that it should control the micro and microbial fouling and be smooth and comply with the AFS convention. Anti-fouling paints do this by leaching biocide into the water. So this is one way of their working, by leaching biocide into the water around the vessel underwater hull. With anti-fouling, AFS convention or anti-fouling system convention, the chemicals which are leached should not be harmful to the environment and should not contain TBTs. TBT free paints uses seawater soluble binders called rosins and biocides, which is used now is copper oxide. Smoothness of the anti-fouling coats was obtained by self-polishing high yield coating. So this is the second way of working of these paints. Self-polishing high yield coating, where the outer layer would erode as the water washes past the hull with simple movement, with shifts movement. And third is silicone or fluoropolymer biocide free paints. So these paints are biocide free and have been introduced, which have a very slippery surface, due to which the fouling is unable to attach themselves to the coating. So these are the ways three ways of action of this anti-fouling paints, and accordingly they are classified too. And the most important property of these paints is that they should last for at least 5 years dry dock cycle, because if it is not so, then the frequency of dry dock will reduce, and the cost of operation will also increase. So as we have seen the action of these paints, so accordingly the paints are divided into two categories, that is biocidal route, which uses copper and boosting biocides, and non-biocidal routes, where the uh, working is totally on the smooth surface, that is does not allow the microorganisms to adhere to the hull surface. So if you want, you can read. I will just upload this thing. Now let's see the condition during application. So during application, when paint is applied, the relative humidity of the air temperature and the surface temperature can individually and collectively influence the quality of the final coat. Painting a steel surface that has water vapor condensing on it will lead to premature coating failure due to a corrosion cell which has been formed by the steel water and trapped air underneath the coating. So in order to determine whether or not the surface is wet, steel temperature should be measured using surface temperature thermometers and dew point calculated after measuring the humidity. So the paint application should not take place where the steel temperature is less than dew point. So friends, this is very important. This should be less than, below dew point. Now the paints can be applied by using brush, rollers, conventional spray where this pressurized air is used for atomization, and ALS spray where air-driven hydraulic motors are used, and they can produce pressure up to 350 bars. So these are the four ways by which the paint can be applied. Now let's see the paint scheme. So the paints, the different types of paints are applied on the ship, means that only depending upon the application or the requirements. So for underwater area like this area, for this area, the paint should have property of corrosion inhibition, fouling resistance, abrasion resistance, smooth and compatible with the cathodic protection. So these properties should be there for the paint which is applied underwater areas. So let's see what all paints are applied and coatings. Two coats of chemically curing two component epoxy or coal tar epoxy is applied. Then polyurethane or coal tar combinations which cures at low temperature, then epoxy coal tar can be used. After this, a barrier coat is then applied to prevent the anti-corrosion paints from bleeding into the anti-fouling paints. So basically, both anti-corrosion and anti-fouling paints are applied. First, the anti-corrosive paint, epoxy or coal tar epoxy, or polyurethane or coal tar combination, which cures at low temperature, they are applied. Then after that, a barrier coat is applied to prevent the anti-corrosive paints from bleeding into the anti-fouling coat. Then after this, the anti-fouling paints are applied. That is, the sealer coat is followed by 2 coats of TBT free anti-fouling paints, and the total film thickness should be about 250 to 400 microns. So this is how we paint the underwater hull area. Then comes the boot topping or the top side, basically this part. So the paints which is applied on this part should have cosmetic quality, then gloss, then corrosion inhibition. So if you want to know the boot topping is defined as the area between the minimum load water line and 12-inch above the maximum load water line. The main requirement is an abrasion and scratch resistant surface. So these are the properties the paint should have. The paint scheme will be similar to the underwater hull, except that the anti-corrosive coating should be glass flake reinforced epoxies. Means that it is very much similar to what we have studied for the underwater, except that the anti-corrosive paint should be glass flaked reinforced epoxies. So let's see the painting scheme for this. 2 coats of anti-corrosive epoxy followed by a single top coat of aliphatic polyurethane and acrylic paint. So basically, aliphatic polyurethane or acrylic paint is applied 2 coats. Then passenger ships uses a final coat or anti-strain coat which contains ingredients which reacts with rust strain to produce a colorless water solution compound. Then total dry film thickness is around 150 microns. So friends, basically 2 coats of anti-corrosive epoxy paint is applied, followed by a single coat of aliphatic polyurethane or acrylic paint is applied. The main difference is that anti-corrosive paint over here should be glass flaked reinforced epoxies. Now the third is the weather deck, means this area, top area. So this area should be corrosion inhibitor. Then this paint should have abrasion and impact resistance quality, then skid property, resistance to seawater, and fuel and lube oil spills. So these paints can handle all these things. So the coating which is applied is 2-pack epoxy polyurethane or zinc silicate paint with dry film thickness of 250 micron for epoxies, and polyurethane 75 to 100 microns for zinc paints. The top coat can be made anti-slip by adding fine agitates to it. Now the interiors. So interior paint should have the property of corrosion inhibition, cosmetic quality, fire resistance, and non-toxic. So the epoxy, acrylic or silicone alkyds emulsions on anti-corrosive multi-purpose epoxy primers. So these are actually used for interior coating, like in accommodation. Then the ballast tank interiors. So the paint which is applied in the ballast tank should be resistant to polluted seawater, corrosion inhibition, free of pores, compatible with cathodic protection, and resistance to it by its product. 2 or 3 coatings of straight modified or solvent free epoxy with a total fill thickness of 250 to 300 micron. The coating should be preferably light colored. And for the cargo tanks, other than similar requirement is the important aspect of compatibility with the cargo to be carried. So for the ballast tank, cargo tank, it is very much similar, which is this one, that is 2 or 3 coatings of straight or modified or solvent free epoxy with a total film thickness of this much. So 250 to 300 microns. But over here for cargo tanks, one extra thing is added, that it should be compatible with the cargo which is carried in the tank. So thank you friends, hope you have enjoyed the video. Till then, take care, have fun.